Hey guys, in this video we will be going over how to solve rational equations. So a rational equation is just an equation that contains a rational expression. And some examples are the following. To solve equations as such, we will be using the multiplication property of equality to first clear the fractions by multiplying both sides of the equation by the LCD. So let's try an example. For this, we want to solve the following equation. Let's clear the fractions by multiplying both sides by the LCD of 2, 3, and 6, which is 6. So we multiply both the left side and the right side of the equation by 6 and distribute to each term. And then we can simplify these fractions. 6 and 2 reduces to 3 over 1. 6 and 3 reduces to 2 over 1. And 6 and 6 reduce to 1 over 1. And now we have no more fractions. So all that's left to do is to solve the linear equation by isolating the x. So we get x equals -5, and this is our solution. For the next example, again, let's start with clearing the fractions from the rational equation. So the LCD of 2, 9, and 18 is 18. So multiply both sides of the equation by the LCD of 18. Distribute this to each term while keeping the numerators written as factors for now. It'll be easier to reduce. Now 18 and 2 reduces to 9 over 1, 18 and 9 reduces to 2 over 1, and 18 and 18 reduces to 1 over 1. So now our equation becomes 9 times x minus 4 minus 2 times x minus 3 equals 5. And we have cleared the fractions. Now all that's left to do is to simplify the left side by distributing and combining like terms. And then solving for x, we get x equals 5. So this is our solution. Okay, so recall that a rational expression is defined for all real numbers except those that make the denominator equal 0. So if a solution makes the denominator equal to 0 for any of the rational expressions in the equation, then it is rejected as a solution. So notice for this example, we have a variable in this expression. This expression will be undefined when x equals 0. Therefore, we make a note that our solution for x cannot be 0. Okay, now let's solve the equation. First, let's clear the fractions by multiplying both sides of the equation by the LCD, which is just x. So distribute the x to each term, and then we can reduce the x's here, and our equation now becomes 3x minus 6 equals x squared plus 8x. Now notice that we have an x squared term this time. Therefore, this equation is a quadratic equation. And in order to solve a quadratic equation, we must first get the equation in standard form with one side equal to 0. To do this, we will need to get rid of the 3x and the minus 6 from this side. So we will subtract 3x and add 6 to both sides of the equation. And now the quadratic equation is in standard form. So to solve this, we will use our zero factor property, so we need to factor this side. And now we set each factor equal to 0 and solve for x. We get x equals -3 and x equals -2. And since this is not an undefined value for x, these will be our two solutions. For this example, again, we want to solve the rational equation. So let's start with factoring this denominator. This will just make it easier to find the undefined values as well as the LCD. So we can factor out a GCF of 3, and then we can further factor this binomial since it is a difference of 2 squares. So now we have our x variable in the denominator of this expression and this expression. The expression will be undefined when the denominator, x plus 2, equals 0, which will be when x equals -2. so we make a note that our solution for x cannot equal -2. And the other expression will be undefined when the denominator equals 0. And we can use the zero factor property to solve this and set each factor equal to 0. The first equation is not true and doesn't have a variable, so we can just eliminate this. And then we get x equals -2 for this equation, which we already have as an undefined value. And we get x equals 2 for the other equation. So our solution for x also cannot equal +2. Now that we found the undefined values for this equation, let's solve it. So to clear the fractions, we multiply both sides of the equation by the LCD of these denominators, which will be 3 times x plus 2 times x minus 2. And we distribute this LCD to each term, again keeping it in factored form for now, and then simplify each expression by dividing out common factors. So we are left with x plus 2 times x minus 2 minus 3 times x minus 2 equals x plus 14. And now we have cleared our fractions. We need to simplify the left side so we can multiply these factors out and then distribute the -3 and then combine like terms. It looks like we have another quadratic equation since we have an x squared term. Therefore, we will need to get this into standard form. So we have to get rid of the x and the plus 14 from this side by subtracting x and subtracting 14 from both sides of the equation. Simplify. And now the equation is in standard form. Now to use our zero factor property, we will need to factor this side. And then set each factor equal to 0, and we get x equals 6 and x equals -2. However, we need to be careful because -2 is an undefined value. Therefore, we cannot include this as part of our solution. So 6 will be our only solution to the rational equation.